After 60, blood pressure is no longer just a number on a monitor. For two different people, the same reading can mean completely different things. One person may feel fine at that level, while another may already be dealing with weakness, dizziness, and unsteadiness. That is why, with age, it becomes important to look at more than just the number itself. High blood pressure is dangerous, of course, but blood pressure that is too low can also be a problem, especially for older adults who are at risk of falling. A lot of people still think that lower is always better, but in real life it is not that simple. After 60, blood vessels become stiffer, the body handles sudden changes less well, and what feels normal for one person may already be too much for someone else. So the main idea is simple. The goal is not just to lower blood pressure, but to understand which blood pressure is right for you. Not based on a leaflet and not based on someone else's experience, but based on how you actually feel. If blood pressure stays too high for too long, it can damage the heart, brain, and kidneys, but if it is pushed too low too aggressively, the result can be weakness, shaky legs, blurred vision, and a higher risk of falling. And for an older person, a fall is not a small issue. It can become a serious problem very quickly. This is especially important in the morning and when standing up quickly. If someone gets out of bed and suddenly feels dizzy, sees black spots, or has to hold on to the wall, that is a warning sign. And if that keeps happening, it is not something to ignore. There is another important point here. Blood pressure should not be judged from one random reading. It changes throughout the day. It reacts to stress, food, coffee, movement, and lack of sleep. That means one measurement does not tell the whole story. A much better approach is to track blood pressure at home and look at the average over time. Here is what actually helps at home. Before measuring, sit quietly for 5 minutes. Do not drink coffee, do not smoke, do not rush around, and do not check your pressure right after exercise. Sit comfortably with your back supported, your feet flat on the floor, and your arm resting on a table at about heart level. The cuff should go on a bare arm, not over clothing. It should fit snugly, but it should not squeeze the arm too much. If the cuff is too small or too large, the reading can be inaccurate. It is best to measure at the same time every day, for example in the morning and in the evening. And instead of doing just one reading, take 2 measurements about 1 to 2 minutes apart. Then you can use the average result, which is much more reliable. If you notice that blood pressure stays high or on the other hand stays too low and you feel weak, that is not something to guess about. It is better to look at the trend and discuss it with a doctor if needed, especially if you are having dizziness, fatigue, unsteadiness, palpitations, or frequent spikes and drops. Now let's talk about what can help blood pressure naturally. First, walk more. Regular moderate activity is one of the simplest and most effective things for the heart and blood vessels. You do not need to start with intense workouts. Even simple daily walking, if done consistently, can make a real difference. Second, pay attention to salt and food quality. When the diet contains too much salty, fatty, and highly processed food, blood pressure often becomes harder to control. But when meals become simpler, lighter, and more balanced, the body usually handles pressure better too. Third, keep your weight under control. Extra weight adds more strain to the heart and blood vessels, and the more risk factors you pile up, the harder it becomes for the body to keep blood pressure stable. Fourth, do not ignore sleep and stress. Poor sleep and constant tension also affect the vascular system. Sometimes people assume the problem is only age, when in reality fatigue, anxiety, and chronic stress are doing a lot of the damage. And finally, if a doctor prescribes medication, do not be afraid of it. Sometimes it is truly necessary. But the real goal is not to chase a perfect number on paper, while the person feels weak and dizzy in real life. So the goal is not the lowest possible number. The goal is a blood pressure that lets a person stay steady, alert, active, and independent. In short, after 60, blood pressure should be handled intelligently. Do not panic over one reading, do not chase numbers that are too low, and do not ignore symptoms. In everyday life, the best approach is simple. Measure properly, track the results, move more, reduce salt, and protect your sleep.